This is another interesting edition of Business and Economy, where we bring you updates on the workings of the Nigerian economy and by extension the global economy, even as we look at trade facilitation on this edition. My name is Ile Emeje. The phrase, "he who controls the trade controls the world economy," has till this day remained true, as the international trading position of every country determines to a large extent the economic and political strength of every country, normally displayed in trading patterns. Countries therefore aspire to have positive balance of trade terms as a measure of their development objectives. Achieving such noble economic and political objectives require trade facilitation, which means that interested countries plan and implement policies and measures that make it easier for trading activities, especially trade across borders, to be as effective and efficient as possible. The World Trade Organization, WTO, defines trade facilitation as the simplification, modernization, and harmonization of export and import processes. In Nigeria, Trade Facilitation Agreement, TFA, was ratified on the 16th of January 2017 as a Category A country. Despite this ambitious effort, Nigeria is yet to fully implement the provisions of the TFA, even as the country can gain up to $170 billion in 20 years from new trade flows if trade facilitation is promoted and implemented. Nigeria's socio-economic indices show that the country urgently requires all the economic leverage it can access, including trade facilitation, to handle, among others, the unemployment and inflation issues, which presently stands at 33.3% and 18.17% respectively. On this episode of Business and Economy, the trade officer, the president of the Nigeria-Bangladesh Business and Technology Forum, Mr. Bob Achanya, is joining us after the business news to look at trade facilitation and economic growth. We'll be right back.
In his keynote address at the press conference with newsmen in Abuja on the real estate exhibition, Chairman of the Trade Center, Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, ACCI, Dr. Johnson Aneni, highlighted sustainable development.
This 6th edition of RECON is intended to draw more investment into the real estate and construction sector and help solve the Nigerian housing deficit problems. It will also explore modern building techniques, promote local production of building materials. And when I say local production of building materials, because you don't just produce without being consumed within the country. So we are using it to also advance the local production and application of building materials. The exhibition will also help to advance the Nigerian economy by promoting new investment opportunities.
The theme, Building Wealth Through Investment in Real Estate and Construction, Dr. Aneni called for patronage.
Or whoever that is looking for a new investment opportunity or seeking partnership, production, or distribution, or marketing of housing-related products or building materials will have a good opportunity.
Stakeholders present give their opinion.
Nigeria have the best. When you come to aluminium, Nigeria have the best in terms of deposits. When you come to cable, electric cable, Nigeria have the best. What then are we looking for? Prepare a very conducive platform for indigenous industrialists and even investors from outside the countries to come in.
Because it will help to reduce youth restiveness and unemployment in the society. When you are busy, you won't think of evil. When you are doing something, you won't think of evil. So we are encouraging us and the partners of this group to take interest.
Speaking in an interview with ASO Television and Radio Services on the exhibition, Director of Trade Policy Center of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Rashid Olawale, acknowledged success of the just concluded 17th Abuja International Trade Fair while noting on the need for the real estate exhibition.
The real estate service providers across the value chain, and also meeting the needs of various categories of workers. You have, in that type of expo, you have people, you have facilities for high net worth people, middle net worth people, and low income earners.
To them, the exhibition is a window of opportunity for all, particularly investors of all kinds and those interested in becoming landlords. Ile Emeje.
As I mentioned earlier, our guest is the President, Nigerian Bangladesh Business and Technology Forum, NBBTF, Mr. Bob Achanya. Mr. Achanya, you are welcome to today's edition of Business and Economy.
Great to see you again. I'm happy to be here.
All right. Let's start from the beginning, Nande. I want to say that over time, countries embark on trade fairs and exhibitions both locally and internationally. How successful can you say they have been? I mean, what impact do you think trade fairs and exhibition can have or have had on the Nigerian economy?
So far, so good. I think the success of any event, particularly events in the economy, depends on how well the economy is doing. Okay. So if you talk about the success or the challenges or the failures of trade facilitation processes, you know, like the trade fairs that we have, I think we'll be talking very strictly about the value of the naira to the dollar, because a lot of these things are, you know, circulating or dependent very, very seriously on the dollar naira rate and the exchange rate, and it has honestly affected so much. If organizers of the trade fairs and the trade facilitation efforts are smiling to the banks, or they are smiling, you know, as a people, then we'll say yes, they are doing well. But if they are crying, particularly in the processes leading to, you know, the organization of those programs, then we could say that no, they are not doing well, because how well the economy does also impacts on a lot of things. I say it's like a value chain.
Okay, you were talking about the value of our foreign exchange. As we speak today, the naira is changing for about 738 naira to the dollar. What can you say on that? We are talking about trade facilitation.
Yes, that is the parallel market. The official rate is
about 430.
So speaking on at this level, I think I should be looking at the official rate. If you are looking at the parallel market and then you are talking something completely different, the economy is doing terribly bad if we are looking at it from the parallel market point of view.
Okay.
But looking at the official rate, I think it can still do better. And based on that, and because the economy thrives more on the parallel market, we could say that the trade fairs are not doing as much as they could do, whether on the part of the organizers or on the part of the clientele, the business, the customers,
the participants,
so people that come in to actually get value from such fairs. Okay. And it comes across all the levels, which I think we'll go into as we discuss further.
Okay. In all of this, if I may ask your own assessment, what are the major drawbacks in setting up trade fairs, exhibition, and in general trade facilitation within and outside of the shores of Nigeria?
Well, I will speak more particularly on my own self, coming from a bilateral business organization like the Nigeria Bangladesh Business Forum. We are a bilateral organization that deals in business development and facilitation between Nigeria and Bangladesh. We are concentrating on Bangladesh because we see the opportunities there. We are concentrating on Bangladesh because over the years, even the UN, from what a certain Secretary of State of the US had said, that Bangladesh was a basket case, meaning you put money, you know, as you put water in a basket, it goes to waste. That was the description given about Bangladesh. And suddenly, there's a change. And Bangladesh today has become a development surprise. Development experts are beginning to study how Bangladesh came about that drastic change. And it's interesting to know that Bangladesh today is being led by a woman. She's at I think the second term in office now, and she's doing critically well. I think we'll need to do a lot of learning from there. And the costs of putting those facilitation together is one other thing that is prohibitive. But if that is a sector you are, you need to find creative ways of ensuring that you make that contribution to the development of the national economy. More so that the administrators of the economy now are doing their best, particularly through the current National Development Plan,
the
NDP, 2021 to 2025. I think we should give all the support and see how that concentric diversification effort initiative that is coming to widen the economic base of the country can actually aggregate all of this in promoting more windows of opportunities for export so that the value of our naira can show up. I think that is where we are. That is exactly what we are doing. And as the program goes by, we'll be able to talk more on the facilitation efforts we are making now, and then how or what benefits it's going to bring to us in Nigeria.
You know, for us in Nigeria, the concern of many experts, economic experts, has been on the fact that the manufacturing subsector is yet to fully operate at the capacity it ought to be. What will you say to that?
That is very, very correct, absolutely correct. And the problems are not far-fetched. For instance, Nigeria is a certificate-based country. We don't value vocational skills and livelihood skills.
You think so?
We don't. Otherwise, our manufacturing sector will be doing well. It is those skills that are needed in the manufacturing sector by the industries, by the SMEs, MSMEs, and all of that. In fact, in Bangladesh, they have graduated from calling it micro, small, and medium to small, micro, medium, and small enterprises.
SMEs.
Yes. So you see the diversification over there, and they value skills. In fact, the garment industry in Bangladesh is about the second after China globally. Most of the apparels and garments that you wear come from China. You only find labels of other countries or the promoters on them. So what are we saying? Garments alone textile garments and cotton is contributing about 65% of the entire GDP of Bangladesh. You also have other sectors that are doing very well, and they are all based on skills. So if you develop your skill set, it's very, very easy for you to say that yes, you can provide, or you can outsource those skills to the different sectors that you require them. And I tell you one thing, about I think last week, we had a courtesy visit, which we have been doing, to some of the selected sectors that we are working on. And we are the Ministry of Education, where the Honorable Permanent Secretary, Mr. Andrew David Adejo, gladly told us that Nigeria today is beginning to realize that our economy will require a substantial upscaling of the skill set in order for us to be able to meet the unemployment and other manufacturing needs, that will require to take us, to that leap that we require. So you find out that those skills are what we require today. It is not the certification. Yes, you can go to the university, you can do the certification, but you require certain skills. For instance, I'm an architect. For God's sake, I could sit down today until tomorrow and still do my painting. If I get broke, I could sit down, spend about 2-3 hours, do a beautiful painting.
To look for money.
To look for money. I could also do certain things. I could do a lot of carving. I could also do certain other things that you would never believe I could go into doing. Those are the skills. If you are going to any of these European countries today, on maybe you want to migrate, emigrate, or you want to go do something, what you need is the skill. It's your skill that gives you the opportunity to thrive over there. Otherwise, your certificate may probably not get you anywhere. So I think there needs to be that right tuning, fine-tuning of the Nigerian economy through skill certification and livelihood management that will enable us to begin to develop our skills. And it has a lot to do with the policy development. It has a lot to do with the political will for us to be able to achieve that.
I was coming there because some time ago, some group of development experts came up with the idea or the suggestion that skills development should be part of our curriculum. What will you say to that? Maybe at tertiary institutions, maybe from secondary school to the highest institution of learning, the universities, the polytechnics, maybe skills should be adopted along with the certification, maybe so that we can become better if you are talking about skills acquisition to certification.
Thank you very much. I think that's a beautiful one. And I take it this way. If you leave the primary section out, how do you cater for them?
Oh, you are saying we should start from the primary school?
Beautiful.
Okay.
So taking them from that primary level, by the time they get to secondary, they are already men on their own. So it is possible for you to actually think that from the secondary level, primary school level, you can actually begin to build these skills up, and then you get to a point that they now become a master at very young ages. And those are the people that become useful in the industries. And this skill thing we are talking about cuts across all the sectors. Look at the computer, the IT sector. Who is going to provide the skill? Is it the graduate or the master's degree holder that has gone through, almost 5-10 years of schooling, that is going to see to now begin to repair telephones, to now begin to do the little servicing you require, to now begin to do all the conjectures that you require to be able to make that process grow. You see today, the other day, I think NITCD was saying that the IT sector today is providing the greatest contribution to the national economy. And I believe that because you see a lot of techie young men today, that is what we need. So it's not going to be the usual issue that maybe you have to go to the university. Yes, university education is good. Nobody is saying you shouldn't. But you need to have a very concerted effort at developing this vocation and livelihood skills that will enable people to be on their own at very early ages. Otherwise, who is going to provide the skill set needed? For instance, if we begin to excite our garment industry now, who is going to provide? You remember we had the thriving garment sector in the 70s, in the 80s. Where are they today? If you go to, to restart them now, go to Kaduna, you see most of those warehouses. They are lying fallow. They are avenues for criminals to stay and then do all sorts. So if you have to reskill that place, that means you have to come back to your policy level, looking at all the sectors, that you require, do a fine-tuning of the skill set that you require for the technological growth of this country. Maybe over a period, you see how you can plan and develop them, and then we'll be able to move on from there.
Okay, let's look at trade facilitation through trade fairs and exhibition once again. And in recent time, some customers have expressed concern with complaints of high price of goods at the trade fair and exhibitions on one hand, while participants complained of low patronage on the other hand. So, of what relevance are trade fairs and exhibition if maybe somebody cannot just walk in and buy goods at an affordable price?
Thank you. I put it this way. Okay. You are a woman, you have a family. You go to the market. The head of the house puts some money on the table and says, you need to do this, do this. You go do your planning and do your procurements and you come back. Depending on the prices of these commodities in the market, that is what determines the volume of goods you come back with. It's exactly the same thing. There is no magic. If the economy is doing well, trade fairs will do well in all ramifications. And that means with both the promoters, both the investors, and both the customers or the buyers that are coming in, everybody will have a win-win scenario. That is not what we have today. Okay. The Naira-dollar exchange value is prohibitive. It's difficult. Okay. And so it affects everything that comes in. But that is different from trade promotion or facilitation externally.
Yeah, international trade.
Good, international trade. Like what we are doing in MBBTF. For instance, the first Nigeria trade mission to Bangladesh is a public and private sector delegate program.
Okay.
Where you have the government sector and the private sector.
Like a PPP arrangement?
Not really
right?
PPP now, but a collaboration that leaves this country and goes to another country, in this case Bangladesh, in order for us to explore the opportunities that they have. I reeled out the opportunities in Bangladesh a while ago. Bangladesh is doing very well in certain sectors that they have comparative advantage. Nigeria also has areas of comparative advantage.
Over Bangladesh.
Over Bangladesh. So if we are able for the first time to get to that market, remember Bangladesh is at the gateway to the ASEAN economies. I mean, that is, we are talking about the Korea, the South Korea, and all the countries, you know, Japan that is around there. So you are able to actually make an inroad, open new windows of opportunities for markets, for your own products in that area. And you're also able to do a South-South cooperation opportunity, which means that we are looking at ourselves that we that are developing, and you know, development is at different levels, just as your fingers are. Bangladesh is doing better than we are in Nigeria. We must accept that.
In what area?
Bangladesh is more industrialized than Nigeria. It is. If you look at it, Bangladesh by 2024, according to the UN, they are going to exit the least developing country status. They are going to exit it, and then which means that they are able to take charge of their own development. When the UN comes in to provide any intervention, they have the opportunity to actually develop their own technologies if they have, and they have really. In agriculture, agricultural technology, flood management, and all that, they are very good. Bangladesh is a delta country with about 900 rivers. I don't think Nigeria has up to 400
900 rivers?
900 rivers. 50 of those 900 have international attributes, which means they have 50 international boundaries with rivers. So they have been able to capture, you know, they have been able to overcome the issues of flooding. However, that does not remove them from the vagaries of the climate change. Okay. Because the climate change, even through the most developed economies, the US and Canada and all, they are still having the effect of the climate change over there. So we are looking at it that there is so much for us to learn from Bangladesh. And that is why this trade mission is very, very important, because we are doing certain government-to-government bilateral understanding and engagements that will ensure that, you know, we begin to have these exchanges between Nigeria and Bangladesh, and then we'll now be able to also see if we could adopt some of the things they are doing, or they adopt some of the ones that we are doing, and then we'll be able to move on.
Okay. We want to take a break now, and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Now, no get water.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria Unite. This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television Star Times Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, and UHF Channel 38.
So glad to have you join us on this edition of Business and Economy, and we are looking at the importance of trade facilitation to countries of the world, including our dear country, Nigeria. The analyst is the president of the Nigerian Bangladesh Business and Technology Forum, NBBTC, Mr. Bob Achanya. Mr. Achanya, before we went on the break, you were trying to make an analysis, and you said that Bangladesh has over 900 rivers, you said, and that they share borders with countries that also have rivers. What is it that, can we refer to them as a flooded country? If no, what is it they are doing that we are not doing in Nigeria? And maybe year in, year out, we experience some flooding exercise in some states of the Federation. Recently, you could see what we went through at the Kogi State, the link road between Kogi and Okene down to Abuja. Until recently, when the road was open, we experienced a lot of flood. What is it they are doing and we are not doing in Nigeria?
Well, you just mentioned one of the worst cases about the Nigerian situation, and I think it's a good thing we must talk about it. Whether we like it or not, Nigeria does not seem to be learning from past experiences. In 2012, I was a staff of a World Bank project in Kogi State, and we had one of the worst flooding events in the history of this country. It was so devastating. And by that experience, we expected a lot would have been learned, because it was also projected that a decade or so later we're going to have something similar. And we began to see some structures, even though a number of times people or experts had faulted, the intention behind some of those embankments that were coming up, particularly in Kogi State, in Lokoja, around the Pata area, where they were beginning to put about I think about 4 feet embankments. About
4 to 6 feet.
No, it's not up to 6 feet. It's about 4 feet embankment, above the water, the foundational structure that was put there. Yeah. So you begin to wonder whether there was really any thought, the organizations that did it, and we were amazed. During this 2022 flood event, those embankments were overrun by the flood. In fact, you spoke about the Lokoja, Okene, Abuja road. Yeah. You failed to mention the criticality of the event, of the flood event, across the rural communities. Kogi has about 54 crossing points of inland waterways in Kogi. In the state. In Nigeria. Nigeria has about 27, 28 states that have rivers, which means of all these states that have these inland waterways, all of them were flooded, all of them had issues, all of them had deaths. For God's sake, in a very, very sane country, we should have people paying for these repercussions, because someone has to take responsibility. How could we have a serious event in 2012, and then you left it by 2022, we are having something worse? It has been said that the flood for 2022 was more devastating than what we had in 2020. Why should we allow it to happen? And that brings me to the issue of Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a delta nation. You have about 900 rivers. And if you know what the interplay of the rivers are, you will know that this country has not been overrun by flooding in itself, which means there is leadership, which means there is concern for the common man, which means there is concern for the economy. Because Bangladesh is being able to turn all this around to the benefit of the economy. And their inland water management system is beginning to attract a lot of attention. They build their own ships, even though Nigeria has begun to build its own ship, albeit quietly. We are not making noise, and that is very, very commendable for this, the administration of Mr. President Alhaji, President Muhammadu Buhari. I think that is very, very good. We are beginning to manufacture our own ocean-going ships and watercrafts, which is very good, which means our blue economy in this country over the next few years is going to mature into something different. But the question to ask is, how do we manage our flood issues, the flooding issues that keeps reoccurring almost every 4, 5, or 10 years? We need to find a place within the political and administrative structure of this country that will take some of these things very, very seriously and then begin to make provisions, develop the framework for their control, for their management, and eventual elimination. We could not eradicate it completely because some of these things are what we call force majeure issues, you know, in project management. And at the end of the day, it now becomes an issue that if you garbage in, you will garbage out. If you put in the right resources, if you put in the right intellect, you will get what you need. And we have quite a number of structures on ground that should be doing some of these things. We have the Institute of Oceanography in Lagos. We have all the marine sector organizations that are there. And that is where we'll honestly applaud the effort of the National Inland Waterways. The National Inland Waterways, in a bid to place control over some of these things and manage them properly, have decided to take a visit to Bangladesh in order to actually look at how they are doing all this, and then they will now be able to come back and then deploy some of those experiences back in the country. Okay. And I think the managing director, Dr. George Mogali, should be applauded for that effort. The head of service of the Federation, the SGF, Boss Mustafa, is also very, very critical about this. When he was MD of NIWA, I think those were some of the things that he also wanted to do. And even up to today, he's still been talking about it. He's still been seeing how we could encourage it to see that the inland waterways management system is honestly taking very good care of, and Nigeria can be the best for it. Okay.
And again, I will also want to say that a critical look at the national development plan of this administration also have a lot of infrastructural development reforms, and I want to be optimistic that if well implemented, maybe some of these problems we are going through may become a thing of the past. Okay, for those of us that are following us on the program, esteemed viewers and listeners that may want to make a contribution to the topic of the day, or you want to make an inquiry on the issues at hand, we will display the numbers to call us. And the number to call us is 0905 7408 Sorry, 0905 7408 The number again, 0905 7408 You can call us. Mr. Achanya is here to answer all your questions and inquiries. Mr. Achanya, before we round up, I want us to look at the program that the Bangladesh-Nigerian trade exhibition is trying to put up. What are the objectives and what are the targets?
Thank you. The objective of the first trade mission to Bangladesh is actually to open our eyes to the fact that there is a country that was once an underdog, but is now over there. And we have so much in common with ourselves. And because we have so much in common and we are all South-South countries, it is possible for us to actually complement our efforts.
Okay, we have a call now. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Okay, we are sorry we lost that call, but you can do well to call us back. Please.
Yes, so the idea is for us to explore the Bangladeshi market and also expose Nigeria to that market. We are hoping that with this opportunity, with this platform, we'll be able to create platforms for government-to-government engagements. We'll also be able to create platforms for business-to-business engagements. The understanding is that Nigeria has a number of pending bilateral agreements with Bangladesh. It is a hope of this trade mission that at the end of the day, there will be that engagement.
Sorry, let's take this call. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello? Hello, good morning. Hello? We lost that call again. So sorry. Yeah, you were trying to say...
So that is one, to explore and introduce the Nigerian export items. Some of them that have already, based on our market intelligence studies that we did, have been already communicated, and we are working on them to be able to put them into the Bangladeshi market and that side, of the world. We're also hoping that by this engagement, the government-to-government engagements that we have with the B2B engagement will be able to also muster enough of the Bangladeshis, investors and businessmen to also come to Nigeria at a later time by next year. The understanding also is that by doing all this, we will be able to forge a lot more better collaborative relationship, bilateral relations between Nigeria and Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a self-sustaining country. They don't like traveling. So we want to see how we can go there to pull them out of their cocoon and come with us. It will be beneficial for us to be able to have the business-to-business engagement especially, so that at the end of the day, we can begin to have small startups, not the large ones. And already we are beginning to see the effort of the present ambassador, along with some of the trade forums that we have, to be able to also put up some...
Okay, hello, funds. Good morning. Hello? Hello? Hello, good morning. Hello? Hello? All right, we lost the call again.
Okay, I think something is happening.
Maybe with the technical problem.
So, so with that, we want to also expand. We are trying to say how we can expand Nigeria-Bangladesh bilateral engagements. We want to take it beyond the level it is now, and see what we can do to be able to also get partnerships from Bangladesh. Already, the Nigerian military has a very robust engagement, bilateral cooperation with Bangladesh. A lot of officers, about 5 slots, go every year to Bangladesh to be able to do their National Defense College studies. They also come here, and they are of the opinion that they should have more slots in Nigeria. We give them only 2, and then they gave us 5. So I think it's something that we'll be looking at. In the educational sector also, we are thinking that vocational education needs to be given a lot more priority now, more so that the National Development Plan is emphasizing on expanding our GDP base through the concentric diversification initiative. So if we are going to have that, it means we must look at all areas that we have comparative advantage. And with Bangladesh, the areas are enormous. We have the, funny enough, the tailoring aspect, because Nigerian type of tailoring or garments is a lot different from what they have over there. So it will also be good if we're able to put something there. We do a lot of kenaf, we do a lot of jute here. We also will need to take it so that we can see what we can be doing about jute and the value chain. In those days, we used to take jute to be able to store our grains, the palm kernels and the granules and all that. Today, we import second-handed jute bags from Ghana. That is very, very embarrassing. But it's possible for us also to pitch our businessmen with them over there so that we can begin to have small startups here that can produce that. Tailoring has a value chain. Tailoring can take over 100 million people from the streets, and I dare say it. We can begin to work on strategies that can also put that framework in place with the National Board for Technical Education, with the National Skill Council, and then with the Federal Ministry of Education through the Science and Technology Department, for us to also be able to narrow down on some of the skill sets that we require to be able to put all this into action. I think that is, those are some of the basic objectives for us going to Bangladesh.
Okay, as laudable as these objectives may look, my fear, I have one fear, and if you take a critical analysis of trade agreements over time between Nigeria and some countries, particularly developed countries, it seems to me that the developed countries will always come into trade agreements with their...
That are exploitative.
You took it from me.
Beautiful.
So how are we sure that the Bangladesh-Nigeria Trade Forum will not repeat the same thing?
Thank you very much. And this is the time for me to explain this properly. I said earlier that our emphasis is on South-South cooperation. South-South, most of the countries there are just beginning to emerge. We are looking at ourselves as having so many things in common. The developed economies, we want to advise government we run away from them because their relationships are exploitative. With countries like Bangladesh and other South-South countries, what you do is win-win situations. It will not be a situation like, and I will mention, there's one of these Asian countries that a lot of the relationships are exploitative. You can see what happened during the train crisis that we incident that we had.
Yeah.
A very vital part of that engagement was not even provided, not to talk of implemented. In their country, they will be jailed because those are very critical areas that should have been taken into account from the outset. The client does not need to tell you because going through the kind of security challenges we're having, everybody should know that, look, this is a must element or item in that engagement. We don't have it. With what we are having and with the experience, it will be possible for us to actually engage with Bangladesh on very plain grounds, win-win situation. They are not taking out on us, we are not taking out from them, but we are working on grounds that will make us to now begin to depend very, very largely on ourselves in very competitive ways, taking the opportunities into account.
So you are sure it's going to be a win-win situation?
It's a win-win situation, and we have a lot of MDA signing off now because they also understand that we are going to do a lot. Outcome-based trade mission. This is an outcome-based trade
Let's
mission.
hope so. But as we close, what will be your general advice to the government and Nigerians on trade facilitation and exhibition in 1 minute?
Thank you. With all we have now with the national effort, particularly with the National Development Plan, the Concentric Diversification Initiative, the stage is now right for Nigeria to begin to set the pace for her development. We can do better year after year, and then we'll now begin to evaluate how we have done in year 1, year 2, year 3. But we must have that evaluation criteria that will take us from ground zero, to the higher highs that we want. And I think that is what the National Development Plan is all talking about.
Okay, the stage is now ripe for Nigeria to exploit and to become a better industrialized nation. With this advice, we have come to the end of today's episode of Business and Economy. And the guest we have been speaking with is the president of the Nigerian Bangladesh Business and Technology Forum, NBBTF, Mr. Bob Achanya. Mr. Bob Achanya is also the founder of the first African Center for Bangladesh Study in Africa. And he's here with us, and I believe that you have learned a lot from him on trade facilitation. Mr. Achanya, we are hopeful that the middle and low-income earners will be able to own at least a business that they can call their own business at the forthcoming exhibition. I want to thank you for finding time to honor our invitation on today's edition of Business and Economy.
Thank you very much.
All right. And to you out there, our esteemed viewers and listeners, we thank you so much for spending time with us on this edition of Business and Economy. Do have a great week ahead.